Well, hello. Hello, Jonas.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Now, first of all, I'd like to mention that none of us is Dominic. And that's because for unforeseen circumstances, Dominic will have to sit this one out, but he will be back with us on February the 10th. So, this is just a little sit-in with me and Jonas. And on February the 10th, you'll have the pleasure to see Dominic finalize the series. But having said that, the stuff we're going to show today is relevant. We are going to show nodes.
And I think it's
So,
going to be quite exciting as well. We're going to pay justice to what Dominic started. We do the best we can.
the best we can.
Yeah.
So let me quickly go through the housekeeping over here. So let me do that. Go to full screen, and very quickly, I'm going to paste. Yeah, the wrong click. So I'm going to paste in the comments this little link here for the Create with Maxon. When you use that, you're going to come to this page over here that gives you other links, including the Ask the Trainer question form, which you can fulfill here. Please don't forget that in the comments of this, in the description text of this today's stream, you'll find the links to the project files, right? And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Let's go here. I'm going to subscribe, and enable notifications and all that nice stuff. Now, in the Maxon events page, you will see that here is the link that you can use to go and watch the series on February the 10th, alongside all the other great stuff that the training team and more people and others have put together for you. Now, as far as this is the question that the most common question we get is, are these series, are these shows hosted so we can watch them later? They're recorded, but the recordings are only hosted on the Maxon Training Team YouTube channel, and they have timestamps and comments by our very good friend and mentor, Dr. Sassy. But as far as live, you can watch them both in the Maxon Training Team and the Maxon YouTube channel, which has great content with amazing artists and techniques and shows and all that. An abundance of entertaining and educational content. Of course, the one thing I always insist in is go to the Maxon ZBrush YouTube channel and learn how to use ZBrush, now available on the iPad for couch sculpting. And last but not least, go to Cineversity and check out the numerous tutorials about all sorts of cool stuff and cool people like this dude over here. And yeah, let me switch back to our faces. And without further ado, Jonas now is going to show you stuff. And while I'm looking at the comments, if you need to ask something, please preface it with a capitalized question so we can distinguish it. And let the show commence.
Oh, thank you very much. Hi everybody. I'm very glad to be back on a live stream again. It's been a while actually. And hello to everyone. I've seen we have people from all over the world in here, which is fantastic. This is an amazing topic, and we do want to make sure that we are going to show you cool stuff. So, by the way, getting back to the housekeeping, Noseman, I really loved the word couch sculpting. So let's make that something that is that we use more often. I love it. All right, so cool. We are going to talk about nodes today, of course. This is a series about nodes magic, and what you see on screen already is a setup I created, a setup that you've seen on the thumbnail for this show already. And the cool thing about this setup is that it is completely procedural. So what I did here was I created some text object, put it in a volume builder, volume measure, and remeshed it so that it's all triangles. I'm going to show you a little breakdown of that in a minute, and then we'll create this nodes modifier together. So what's happening in here? Here you can see we can yeah, just change the words here. And let's say we put in, yeah, CWM for create with Maxon. And you can see it's rebuilding, and there we go. Now we have our new geometry here. If we want to jump out of the camera and see the word here, you can see that there's a lot of stuff happening. In the nodes modifier, we can adjust the ratio between those golden triangles here and the more liquid areas. And we can invert this, of course. We can adjust the seed. So this is completely procedural. And because it's based on a volume builder and volume measure and then remeshed, we can input every shape that we want in here. So this is a very procedural setup. And now let me show you how you can recreate that. For that purpose, I'm going to delete this. By the way, this scene is part of the download package now. And I counted it, the amount of files we have in this month's download package, and it's 28 files in total. So that's pretty massive and amazing. So let me jump into this. So we start with the text, right? It's just a simple text here. Then we throw that into a volume builder to create a volume out of that and to smooth it a little bit. And then we mesh that. And as you know, if I hit NB for shading with lines, we're getting this, typical topology for volumes. And then I put that into a remesher. And in the remesher, I put the algorithm from Z remesher to instant mesh, because that will allow us to use polygon type triangles. And this is how I got all these triangles. And I'm going to use this as the base for the nodes modifier that I'm going to create. All right, so let me open up the asset browser. And now I'm already teasing something that I wanted to show later. So I'm going to type in nodes mod, and here we have the nodes modifier. I'm going to put it right under the remesher, and then just put the volume measure on top again. So now we have the nodes modifier. And if we double click, we will open up the node editor, or I already created this nodes layout. Now we have this more space for the nodes, and we can still see what we are doing here. So one thing that I usually do first is I connect the geometry with the geometry, because then this allows me to just double click, go with any node that I want. Let's say we want to start with the random selection and just put that onto that line. And now I have a random selection. All right. And with this random selection, what I want to do is I want to split the selected polygons from the ones that are not selected. This is something that Dominic showed last week already. So let me just double click again and just type in split. And we're going to start with this. All right, so now we are having the geometry output and the remainder output, which is the opposite. Okay, so these two are what we need. So now I want to make sure that from the geometry and from the remainder, we're going to select all the polygons and then do something with them. In order to do that, I'm just going to take care of the let's say the golden parts that I created earlier, and then of the more liquid like parts. So let me create a new node. In this case, it's going to be the select node, this one here. And in here, I'm just going to type into the selection string field all. So I'm going to select all polygons that are now part of this stream of geometry. Okay, what can we do next? So what we want to do is we want to extrude these and then maybe extrude and extrude again. So these need some thickness. And to do that, I'm just, well, I can use the thicken or the extrude. It actually doesn't really matter. In this case, let me use the extrude. Extrude, I put it here, and now you can see that this has been extruded. I'm going to set the offset to, let's say, -20 instead. That was a mistype. Here we go. And maybe even just -10. And now you can see in here that we're getting these funky triangles. First of all, I want to scroll down here a little bit until I get to use islands. I want to use islands instead of using every polygon or extruding every polygon separately. And then I want to create caps as well. So here we have the first thing. And what I can do with that now is, I could just, extrude it further. So now with all these, I'm going to create another, let's say, inset. I'm going to put that here. And we want to make sure that we are insetting all of these. And now we have this little inset like so. And the next thing I can do is I can add another extrude and just create a little bit of a hole there to make it look more interesting. So let's go here and let's see. I think we need something like -5 or +5. Let's see. Oh, we're not selecting all of them. Okay, I just noticed that I did do something wrong, because here I'm selecting all of them, I'm extruding all of them, but now before insetting them, I want to again add all of these polygons to an active selection, and I'm going to do that by adding a select again and put it in here. Make sure I select all of the existing ones, and now I get what I initially wanted. So what you see here is basically like a modeling stack, as if you would perform all these actions one after the other in destructive modeling, right? So you could do this just by selecting random polygons, then deleting the polygons, then extruding again, insetting, extruding, and so on. But we are going to create this procedurally, but still we need to keep in mind the modeling stack, all the operations and the order of operations that we need to do in order to get this in a destructive workflow. But in this case, it's procedural. So let me go down here, let's say to something like that. And yeah, I think this is looking pretty interesting already. Another thing we can add is a bevel. So let's go with bevel. We are using a chamfer actually in edge mode. And I do want to chamfer all edges. And in this case, we want this to be a little smaller, let's say 1 centimeter. Hit the limit button, and let me quickly see. Edges, all edges. Now it's happening. Let's adjust the size a bit. Let's go 0.2 and add some subdivision to make it look a little better. But now you can see this is one part of our geometry. So we have that already. Okay, cool. So now let me set this to the remainder actually and put it here. And we're now going to connect the geometry directly into the geometry. So now we are dealing with the other side. So for the other side, I again want to extrude, but I want to create these like soft, let's say subdivision surfaced parts of geometry or pieces of geometry. And for that, again, I'm going to use my select here. I can make a copy, and I'm just going to select all of these. All right. And now I want to, in this case, yeah, let's use the extrude again. Actually, I could have copied this whole chain until here. So let's just create duplicates of these and just put that in here, like so. So we have this. And the next step I want to do is I want to subdivide that. So let me jump in here and subdivide. And in the subdivide, I can choose smooth. And now you can see what is happening here. We're creating smooth pieces of geometry, which is pretty nice. Okay, let me see. Usually I had problems sometimes because there were islands that were still together, glued together at one point. In this case, it doesn't seem to be a problem. But if that happens, there is if you type in none, you will get the remove non-manifold, and this will make all those parts that are together but just connected through a single point. It will disconnect those. And let me just try if that works. Actually, we have to do that in the very beginning here. Maybe after the extrude. Let's put it here and see if it makes a difference. We're going to put that into edges or points mode. It doesn't make a difference at the moment. Okay, cool. So we can leave that out, but just that you know, to disconnect islands from each other, this is a great node. I'm going to leave it in here. And now, at the very end, we want to bring everything together, and we can do that with a connect node. So we're going to use the connect node. We're going to add an input, and now we're going to put this in here and this in here, and then connect this to the output. And now we have both, as you can see. So this is great. What we need in order to create these selections is we need to store those selections. So let me just see what these two are. We have one selection that is called hard and another one that is called soft. So let me store the selections. Store. So this one here is our selection of the hard parts. We're going to select all of the polygons here in the chain, and now you can already see that it's working. I'm going to do the same thing with the other one, and this one is going to be our soft selection. And here we go. Now the materials are applied, and now we could just add a few parameters to this node modifier. For example, we could go with the seed and the chance. So I control click both of them, and then I will just so control clicking will make them available on the node, and then I just drag a line into an empty space, add new input for both, and now you can see that if I just select the modifier, I get the seed and I get the chance, and I can adjust these to my liking, right? And this is completely procedural. So you can not only use this to build houses, as you saw last week, but you can also use that to create very cool looking, but also procedural setups with the tools you have at hand. So this is the first one that I wanted to show. Then there is another one that I like quite a lot, because There are so many different use cases, and sometimes you might know a destructive way of creating something, but a procedural workflow might actually be better because then you build it once and you can apply it very often. And yeah, you're just way more flexible. But before I jump into that, let me quickly pause and ask Noseman if there were any questions about this.
No, we don't have questions. We've had a comment that when you hold Control and Shift, you can make a copy of the node while retaining the inputs. Yes,
That is true.
Thank
That
you
is
very
true.
much,
Let
Yep.
me show that.
Yep.
So this is just Control. If I hold down the Shift key, you can see that the connection here is still active. Thank you for the comment. This is a very, very cool thing, especially when you're not like me here, just having one connection here, but having multiple connections into the set of nodes that you are duplicating. Then all these connections will be kept.
Exactly. So we just had a question from Dean Melisitz. Bring it up. Can you show more selection methods like a row of polygons and so forth?
A row of polygons. That's an interesting one.
I can touch upon that. So, Dean, I'm gonna tag your question. I've started, and yeah, I will touch upon it when I'm going to show some stuff. That's a very good question.
Okay, cool. So let me.
Last question. We have this. All right, get done. Is there a way to prevent crashing if we make some stupid value in the nodes? Well, there is. It's not a stupid value, right? You drag your mouse. Sometimes it goes to 0. Sometimes it goes close to 0. I think that you're talking about a freeze, not a crash per se, because if it crashes, it crashes. But if it freezes because a value is so small and it has to calculate, or if you have too many points that do something, you can try to press escape a few times because the node editor is quite good at breaking after a certain amount of time. So try hitting the escape key a couple of times, and the moment it stops execution, just deactivate your deformer or your modifier. Otherwise, the best thing is that you expose a value, just like Jonas did, and then you go to the resource editor and you set a minimum limit. So, but that is something you need to expose to the interface. You can't do that within the node itself if it's a value node and all that. I may show
that later.
Yeah. So let me tag this question as well. Yeah, the escape will may work, and the minimum and all that kind of stuff. I think Jonas can show you the way to do that. So, Jonas, the floor is yours.
Cool. So the next thing I wanted to show you is actually a setup that I once used in a quick tip. And if you want to know, it's a quick tip 48. And that was to create knurled surfaces. So what I created there is a bunch of modeling commands. This is like a stack. And Dominic mentioned it last week already. You can use pretty much any of those like nodes for the commands that you also have here in the mesh and spline menus here as a modifier and stack them. So back then I created this way. But I also made my own node out of it. So this is the actual geometry. And if you have on this, if you switch on the knurl, you would get a diagonal edge flow. And in this case, I'm going even further and doing stuff to actually have those little spikes here. And I want to show you a quick way of creating it. I'm not going to go through the whole setup, but the basic idea behind it. So let me create a new scene and just create a cylinder again. And I'm gonna make the topology visible, and I'm just gonna add some more segments in height and in rotation. Then I'm gonna hit C to make this editable and go to polygon mode. I'm gonna use the loop selection tool. The shortcut is UL, and I'm gonna create a loop here, then shift click here to create a loop there as well. Then I'm gonna fill the selection. The shortcut for that is UF, and I'm gonna shift click here to add it to the current selection. So this is the selection I want to work with, right? And I want to knurl all these polygons here. I want to create a diagonal edge flow for these. So let me quickly go through the manual steps you would have to do this. The first thing is you would need to convert this to an edge selection. So if you go to edge selection now, you can see no edge selection here. So what you can do, if you control click another mode, you will not just go to that other component mode, but you would also convert the current selection to the selection type that you're to the component type that you're selecting here. So I hold down Control, I click this, and suddenly I get an edge selection of the very same polygons. So now what I need is actually this selection, but I don't need this top loop and the bottom loop. So what I'm going to create is I'm going to go to Select and shrink the selection. And now you can see that these are gone as well. So I'm going to go to Select and grow the selection. And now I have exactly what I need, right? And I'm going to keep that. I'm going to use that later. But I'm going to go to Polygons mode now. And let's go to Mesh, Add, and poke these polygons. So I'm going to poke them, right? And now I have a cross that is going through all the polygons. But now when I go back to the edge selection, these other edges are selected. And you can see that the crosses are here in the middle between those. So what we can do is we can just dissolve these edges, and this will give us the diagonal edge flow. So let me go to Mesh and then Remove, Dissolve, and there we go. This is our diagonal edge flow, right? So this is cool as a workflow, but as you saw, it's completely destructive. So now let's say I don't need this selection. I want this to be based on a selection that is smaller, or I want another, I want this to be knurled and this down here to be knurled. Then it is cooler to have an actual modifier for that will just help you. Yeah. So let's do that. I'm gonna undo all of the stuff I did. Well, let me just make sure that we are keeping the selection. So I'm gonna redo until we are here. And I'm going to create a new nodes modifier. Here we go. Okay, cool. So let me go to my nodes layout and select the nodes modifier again. Here we go. I'm again going to start by connecting the geometry node to the geometry node. And yeah, now let's see what we can do. The first thing I want to do is I want to transform the selection, transfer the selection. So this is the transfer selection. So we have the polygon selection. We are taking the selection and we're going to convert it from a polygon selection into an edge selection. That's something we can do procedurally. And from here, I'm going to shrink the selection like so, and grow the selection. Okay, so now we have both the selections we need. We have the initial polygon selection, and we have this edge selection. So let me just move on here and add the knurl. In this case, it's the poke polygon. Here we go. And we're going to do that in polygons mode. That is important. You can already see that we're now getting these crosses here. And then after that, I'm going, double clicking again and hit dissolve, or type in dissolve. Is it with, yeah, 2S? So here we go, dissolve, put it here. And we have to do that in edges mode. And yeah, here you can see that something happened. Let me quickly see what that could be. Is it a tolerance selection that we need? Oh, that's an interesting one. Let me just switch it off and switch it on again. So we are shrinking, we're transferring the selection, shrinking it down, growing it. Maybe we need a select at the very beginning. Sometimes that is the case. And just type in active. That's not solving the issue here. Okay, let me go from this shrink selection directly to there. All right. I'm gonna go here, polygons. This is default. All right.
I cannot help you because I haven't been paying attention. I've been looking at them.
No problem, no problem. I think I can somehow figure it out.
You're on your own.
Let me store this selection first. Maybe something is happening here in the middle. Store the edge selection, call it dis for dissolve, and use the active. And then we're gonna dissolve this. That's not the solution. Oh, that is very interesting. That is very interesting. Let me see. What else can it be? So far this is working. So this is still part of the selection. Otherwise it wouldn't be dissolved. So let me see. Oh yeah, I got it. We are not using edge mode in these selections, in these shrink and growth selections. So let me delete all that. That was the mistake. So in the shrink selection, of course, we need to make sure that we're using, that we're shrinking the edge selection. And in the grow selection, we also need to make sure that we are growing the edge selection. Then we're going to poke the polygons, the dissolve. We're just going to delete the selection string here and go back to active. And there we go. Now we have our polygon, our diagonal edge flow. So this is a pretty cool and powerful setup, because now I can still switch it off and on again. Another thing I can do is I could just go in here and tell Cinema 4D, instead of using all these, I can just remove some of those, right? And now you can see that this is completely, yeah, procedural. It's working the way I want it to work. And now another thing I can do is I can create another poke polygons. Let me just control click and drag. I'm going to add another one. And for this one, I'm going to use an offset. And now I can create these spikes and then bevel them and so on. So this is the very simple setup of what I did there. And of course, now you could, for example, choose to either have options to poke these polygons or not. If you want to do that, I would go with a switch. So let me create a switch. We're going to add that. I'm going to set the data type to geometry object. And we want to have two options here. First, the one that is not poked. We're going to have to, my mouse is doing weird things here. And we also want to add this output as an option. So now if we put this into the geometry output, we can switch between the two here, and we can control this with a bool. So we're going to create a new input, and in this case, I have it a bool type. This is a checkbox. I'm going to name this, let's just name it poke. And I'm going to connect that to the input here. And I'm also going to expose the offset, add a new input. And now I have this nodes modifier, which is my knurl modifier. And I can poke the polygons or not, and I can adjust the height of the spikes here. So there are some special cases here that wouldn't work at the moment. So this is the setup for a selection that is not close to an edge. If you want to be really sure that this will work, you would have to exclude that, or you have to implement this and make a special case for the scenario with really all polygons selected. Just that you know. And I can actually show you that because I already have it here. So let me add it here. I'm also not exactly sure. Maybe that I added this modifier here to the download files. I think that's the one in the download files. So in here, I'm actually covering this case, and as you can see, I have a few more options, like the height of those triangle polygons. And if you right click and go to edit as group, you can see that it's a little more complicated, but that is only because I'm checking for a couple of more cases. Like in this case, if it's all polygons or not, and then I have other checkboxes for the triangles here on the side. So I'm covering these cases as well. But this is the basic setup here, and you can see you can already do quite a lot of stuff just with a basic setup. All right. So are there any questions about that? So there was one question: why grow the selection after shrinking it? So
that was one of them that I marked. I would assume, although I wasn't paying attention, that one of them is on one component type, polygons, and the other one is on another, edges, for example.
no, they are both on the same component type. Let me just show it to you once more. So I'm working with this selection here. Let me just make this bigger. And what I'm growing or shrinking and growing is not the polygon selection, but the edge selection. So again, let me convert this into an edge selection by holding down the control key, the control key while I'm switching to edges mode. Right now I have this selection. If I now shrink the selection, I will lose this loop here on top, like this one, right? But I would also lose these here, right? What I want to have in the end is this selection minus the top loop and minus the bottom loop. That's what I need, right? So, but I need to do this in a procedural way. And the easiest way, because we have the nodes for that, is to first shrink the selection, because this would remove the top loop, but also these here. And then when I grow it, you can see that only these edges are coming back to the selection, but the top loop and the bottom loop are not going to be added back. And that's what I need here. Okay.
Excellent. So that's because the grow and the shrink don't do exactly the same thing in opposite, because their connections are.
Yeah, the connections are different here in this case once you shrinked, right?
Have I frozen?
have you frozen? Yeah, your image actually, yeah, your webcam
Interesting.
froze. I can still hear you.
Yeah, interesting.
I'll just try
Hopefully
to.
everyone else can hear me. Can we have a confirmation? Yeah,
Yeah.
that is.
Well, if I can
Okay.
hear you, everyone should hear you.
I don't know if I can remove myself and add my. No, something's happened to. Let's see. No, my frozen face. Anyway, I just want to say that the growing and the shrinking, depending on the topology, will not symmetrically, let's say, cancel out each other. So that's a very smart way of doing something. Excellent. And people can hear me. So yeah, I don't know what happened, but it's a browser. It's a browser-based streaming service, so things can happen. It's okay. You can, you know.
Okay, so yeah, Thanas is left. I think he's gonna leave. No, you're still frozen.
I don't know.
Maybe you can
gonna
leave
show my
completely and come back and see if that's gonna solve the issue. I'm gonna continue here in the meantime. All right.
I can't do this. I started the stream.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we don't want to kick everyone out.
No, we don't want to do that. Okay, cool.
If I remove my camera, can you still hear me? That's a question.
I can hear you, yeah. Well, no, I think we cannot hear you.
Oh,
in case you did talk in the meantime.
I do not know how to do this.
All right, cool. So
yeah,
let's just continue for now. I'm gonna have a look at recursive subdivision, which is a very interesting technique as well. So we're gonna work on something like this, and what you can see here is basically a setup that is creating a random selection, like a random polygon selection, and then subdividing that random selection. That's what you see here. But then we have this iterations parameter. And if I go up, this is going to happen again. And if I add one, this is going to happen again. And if I add one, guess what? It's going to happen again, and so on and so forth. So in addition to that, I exposed a parameter for the chance, and I exposed a parameter for the chance of the last iteration. So sometimes the last iteration is too prominent. If I bring this all the way up to 100, you can see that this is quite a lot. Also, when you bring this up quite a lot, I think this is also a very cool topology. So, but what you can see here is that it does make sense to have a parameter that is controlling the last iteration. Okie doke. And yeah, to do all that, let me just start from scratch here. So we have this cube. It's just a standard cube, as you can see, with two subdivisions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, not the knurl, I'm going to add a nodes modifier. Here we go. And add that here. Okay, so what we want to do, let me go to the nodes layout, select the nodes modifier here. And what we want to do is actually, we want to be able, connect this again, to create a random selection. Here we go. And then use a subdivide to subdivide these polygons. That's what's happening right now. And then what we want to happen is actually the same thing again. So we're going to put this into here and in there. And actually, we could already create this setup just by adding nodes here and a few more. But as you can see, although it's a little more procedural because you can still switch it off and on, we don't have control over the iterations. Also, it would be not as easy to handle selections with that for every single iteration. So let's work on that. And what I want to introduce you to is actually something that Dominic wanted to show today initially. And that is a node that is called loop carried value. And with the loop carried value node, you can basically recreate what I just did manually, but in a single node, so that you give it some input, something is happening with you're creating loops basically. Something is creating inside that loop, and then it's using the result of that loop as the new input and applying the same action again and again and again and again, depending on how often you want that to happen. All right, so this is what we need here. So let me just double click here and add the loop carried value node. Here we go. And we're going to set the type to geometry object. And then I want to put this in here and that in here. So now we're not getting anything back. And what I want to do here, what you can see is that the loop carried value, it has this, it has these, this folder icon here. So you can open it, and now you again have an input and an output. And this is creating the loops. So this is the input, this is the output. It's going to use that output again as the input. So it's going to loop through this over and over again. So what we need in here are these two nodes. So I'm just going to cut them here, and then I open this, and I'm going to paste them here. And now let me just connect these two to the outputs and inputs. And now you can see that our cube is back. Okay, so if I have a look here, you can still see that, yeah, there's not really anything happening. So we need to define somehow how often to go through that loop. And we can do that with a range node. So let me bring up the nodes library here and create a range node. So the range node again has these what are they called? Parentheses, or what is the name of these, Noseman?
Brackets, curly brackets.
Those are brackets. Okay, cool. So we're going to connect this one to this one, and this is going to start the loop. Maybe let me go to an end of 3 here. So it's it's creating a range between 0 and 3. And if I connect that, you can see that we're now having this effect already. So when I go up here, you can see we are creating more and more of these. So this is important. So connecting this here with that is creating the loop. If we want to do something with the range or the count inside, we need specific inputs here. So let's say we want to create that multiplier for this last iteration, so that we don't have too many of the smallest subdivisions. Then we would have to go in here and compare the range with the count, so that the range is actually counting through that, well, it's counting the loops. And you can get this number, so the loop number, inside the loop carried value if you bring this in. And then you can compare that to the count. And if the range is the count minus 1, then you can do something with that last iteration. So one interesting thing and one important thing for you to know is that all the programmers here in the audience might know that already. But in programming, we are not starting to count from 1. We are starting to count from 0. So if the count is 6, we are not counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but we're counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the last the last one in the range is not 6, but 5. The count is 6, though, because including 0, it's 6 values. So let me bring these in. I'm just going to drag a wire here from the range onto the bottom part here and create a new input. And I'm going to do the same with the count. And actually, with the count, we can already subtract 1. And that is because we want to compare the count with the range, and the last one in the range is, in this case, 5, but the count is 6, so we need to subtract 1 to get the number that we can compare. And then we jump into the loop carried value, and now you can see these inputs here. So we are going to compare the two, compare, and let's use the range as input 1 and the count as input 2. And if the two are equal, and that's only going to happen during the last iteration, then do something else. So what we have here is, in the random selection, is the chance, right? So we want to affect that, but only for the last iteration. So we need the chance, okay? And what I also want to do is I want to expose that to the outside. So I'm going to create an input for the chance here. So now we can adjust the chance here. And then what I also need is a switch node that allows me to go from the chance that I set up here to another chance that I can set up in addition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a switch node here. And I'm just going to use the initial, well, the chance that is coming in here as input 1. And I'm going to use another one, for example, 0.5 here. So that would be half of the chance for the last iteration. That's what I want to do. So let me connect the switch here to the chance. Now you can see nothing has happened, but we created the switch and we can already switch between the full chance and the other one, right? And now we just need to define that the switch is happening during the last iteration. And that's what we did here with our compare node. We're comparing the range with the count, count minus 1, remember. And if the last iteration is going to be reached, it's going to output a true value here. So in numbers, that's a 1. So false is a 0 and true is a 1. So I can connect this here, and then I will get 0 for this one. And for the last iteration, because the value is going to be 1, I'm going to get this. So let's connect those two here. Let's put the result of the compare into the index input of the switch. And suddenly you can see that stuff changed. And if we go in here and adjust this value, let me just go to 0.4. You can see that we're only adjusting the last, or the chance for the last iteration, right? So that's what we just did. Okay, of course we need that as an input as well. So I'm just gonna create an input here, and this is gonna be our chance last iteration. And now this is has been exposed as well. I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm gonna leave the loop carried value. You can now see that we have that here as well. Let's get rid of that spelling mistake here. And what I can do now is I can just add inputs for these. So add new input, add new input. Also, another thing we can expose is actually the seed here from the random selection. So I'm going to control click the circle. I'm going to add that as an input here, go out here and just add a new input. And then I'm going to select these 3 and just move them here so I don't have this noodle salad because I'm hungry already. And noodle salad here doesn't help. So yeah, now we have these parameters, right? We can create, or we can control these parameters from here. I can adjust the strength here, and I can also adjust the seed, which is fantastic. Okay, so the last thing I want to do, actually, to do something cool with these, is I want to output some selections. So let me go in here again into the loop carried value. And let's say we just want a selection to be output for every single iteration. And as you can see here in the random selection, we can store the selection. And I'm just going to expose this. And now if we use the range parameter here in the store selection, watch what happens in the object manager. Now it's creating all these selections. For every single iteration, we have one selection, and the store selection is going to use the iteration number for the name. So here's name selection 0, selection 1, selection 2, 3, and 4. All right, cool. And if I jump out of here and adjust the count of iterations, oh, that's a parameter we haven't exposed yet. So we need the end parameter here. And I'm going to set this to iterations. And now we have everything we need here on the top level. Okay, now let me just go to edit resource because we want to adjust the interface a little bit. So the first thing we need here is iterations. And what I want here is I want a default value of, let's say, 2. Value limits. We actually don't need value limits. We also don't need a slider. Then for the chance, I'm actually pretty happy. Default value 50. Value limits. We have sliders. Perfect. Let me go to last iteration. This is something we need to set up. I want to have a slider for this one as well. So let me change the unit to % again. And the default value is supposed to be 50. The step is supposed to be 1. I want to create some value limits here. And I'm going to go down with a minimum, not to 0, but to 0.0001. So it's showing me 0, but it's actually not 0. So that we are just avoiding the 0. And for the top, we're going to use 100%. Then I want to show the slider. Now we have that here. And for the slider limits, let's go with 0 to 100. So that's now our slider. I want to have the seed here. No, I want to have it down here. And that's basically it. Maybe we can add a separator down here between iterations and chance, but this is going to be our UI. So I'm quite happy with that. Let's quickly check if everything is working. So yeah, we can work with that. We can play with the chance here. We can adjust this chance. Oh, something is happening here. That is interesting. Why is that happening? Interesting. Interesting. Let me have a look here again. So I'm subdividing here, one subdivision, random selection. That's actually what I want. This is also what I want. Let me see if it makes a difference if we put the last iteration here, the subtract, if we put that into the loop carried value. That's the only thing that I have in mind that could make a difference here. So we're going to compare this to the count. We're going to subtract 1 and put that here. Let's see if that's making a difference. Otherwise, I'm a little bit Oh no, it's still here. That is interesting. Because I cannot remember that happening in my tests. So maybe again, let me try if a select node is gonna make a difference. Nope, it's not. Oh, that is interesting. That is very interesting. So
It
for
doesn't matter.
some
In your
reason,
file, in the file you have in the downloads folder, that
yeah,
just correct? Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure that it doesn't do that. So what's happening here is actually that for some reason it's picking a selection here. Let me just maybe get rid of that. No, that doesn't make a difference. It's adding this to the selection and subdividing that. And because it's not a pure
Quad.
quad anymore, it's doing this subdivision. So it has something to do with the selection handling. And let me see. Let me think.
Are you going to solve it now?
Yeah. Well, it's the good thing is that it's in the download files. So it has something to do with this. And it's been added to the selection. Interesting. Okay. Default, or let me go with active. Yeah, it's still there. Oh, that is unfortunate. That is unfortunate. I'm really wondering why this is happening.
So you work on it on the background. I'm going to look at some questions. You got carried away.
Yeah.
Let's go and look at some questions. I'm going to put my screen in the front so you can knock yourself out and find the solution. And let me go all the way up where I've got questions tagged. Let's start from Dean Mellis. Can you show more selection methods like a row of polygons and so forth? So selections, as intuitive as they are when you're doing them in the object manager, sometimes there are certain nuances which evade us. So let me go and copy this. What I'm going to show you what I mean. So we have here this editable cylinder, right? Now we know that when we want to select a loop of polygons, we press UL and we select a loop. What we are not aware of is that a polygon loop is not defined by a polygon. It's defined by an edge. If you go close to this edge, this is what triggers the loop around it. If you go close to this edge, this is what defines the loop. So an edge defines a polygon loop. And if anyone knew that, post, and I'll say congratulations. Now, let's go to this little thing. Now, this seems a bit more too convoluted, but it's just an illustration of what's going on. So we have, if we go to edge selections here, I have this editable cylinder, and I've selected this edge over here. Now, the nodes modifier transfers that selection, which by definition works with the active selection, into points, takes that point info and delivers an array of indices. So this will give us 0.77 and 0.78, which happen to be the points adjacent to the edge. Now that we have those 2 points, we can get those by getting array item index 0 and index 1 from this little index of array index and put it in the loop selection, which requires 2 points, an edge point for the beginning of the edge and the edge point for the end of the edge. It defines an edge, and that edge defines the loop selection. So again, this is for illustrative purposes. And what this does later on is it takes that loop selection and just deletes it. So if I go to object mode, you can see that that edge is deleted. So what this does is whatever edge I select, that loop of polygons is going to be deleted. But this shows that when you're doing certain things programmatically, they are quite different than the way we do them when we work in the object manager or the viewport and so forth. Now, the good news with something like this is if I want to create a tool that allows me to select one edge and that edge defines a loop, now that I've done this, and again, this is a very naive solution, but I can take this and group it. And there you go. So now I have this thing which is called loop from single edge. There you go. So loop from single edge is the tool I've made over here. And I can save it. And from this point onwards, I can just use it. Put the geometry in here, whatever the edge is selected, it's going to go and delete. And again, oh, breaking news, Jonas found the solution. Great. So this is as far as the selection methods. In terms of what kind of selections we have, just go select, and you will see over here we have border selection, edge selection, grow selection, invert selection, loop selection, and all sorts of other modular selection, and all sorts of other things. That's number one. The other thing is that we can define selections numerically. And this ties into another question I have. So whenever we have a selection string over here, so what I'm going to do is, let me put another points info here, link it up here, and I want to get not point indices. Actually, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to just delete. Let's go and delete polygons. And the question is, what polygons am I going to delete? Now, this will delete everything. I want to delete one, polygon 1. There you go, just polygon 1. So when you go in here, you can use all for all and press enter. So this is going to delete all. You can delete 1 to 5. So you can use the little dash. You can go 1 to 5, comma 35 to 40. So you can do these kind of things. You can drag selections from here, which they're going to appear with quotes, the name, and they have to be quoted. Without quotes, it won't work. And if you want to know what more, right-click here, go to show help, and you will find the help where it says default, odd, even, or hidden, name of saved selection, index numbers, mathematical and logical operators. And, you can see we can use ands, we can use plus, minus, and so forth. So there's an array of things you could do to select polygons. And yeah, the one thing I do need to tell you about is the edges. With edges, you need to define the edges that have through their 2 points. So you need to go here and say point indices, and let's go here and you can see, let's say I want to delete this edge over here. Okay, this edge is defined by points 2 and 3. You need to go here and type 2_3, and it deletes that edge. So to define an edge selection, edges do not have indices. Edges are defined by the 2 points that are on each edge. That's why whenever you see some sort of edge selection within your node system, you will see that it's always defined, anything that has to do with an edge, with 2 points, like this one over here. Okay, so I think that's as much as I have to say for this point about selections. Let's hand it over to Jonas because he seems quite excited, and I may take it back, although Jonas took away all my time, but there you go.
All right, so here's what happened. I forgot to add one single node. And now what's happening at the moment is the chance of all iterations can be lower than the chance of the last iteration. So if I go beyond 50% now, so the chance of all others is 50%. If I now go above that, it will start to do these things. Of course, the chance for this needs to be lower than these 50%. So what I need to do is here in the loop carried value, you can see that we have this chance last iteration. It's this line that we need to do something with. So rather than just putting that into the switch, I actually don't want this to be like, let's say 50% of the general chance. I want this to be 50% of the other chance parameter that we set up.
Multiply the chance
So
variable.
that it's below that. So we are just multiplying the chance with the chance last iteration. That's what we're going to do. So multiply is the node we need. And I'm just going to put the chance into here and the chance last iteration in here. And then I'm going to connect this to input 2 of the switch. This way, no matter how high I go with the chance last iteration parameter, even 100% is just 100% of those 50%, right? So I'm not going above the 50%. And now it is working without any problems. Okay, so now actually we finished this little modifier, which we're going to call recursive subdivision, because that's what it is. I want to show you another important thing that Dominic also quickly covered, but I want to go a little more in depth with that. And that is creating databases and saving this as an asset. So what you need actually is some location on your drive. It can also be on a server. And you define that location as a database. And what's going to happen then is that Cinema 4D is going to create some file structure and so on. And you wouldn't touch that on the drive using Finder or Windows Explorer, but only by going through the asset browser. This is how you would manage it. So let me go into my standard layout. And let's make sure that we're having good parameters here. I'm going to go down and let's set this back and this one to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So this is going to be, these are going to be our defaults. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to open up the asset browser. I'm going to create a database first. I can also do that through creating an asset, but what I want to show you is how to create a database. So what you would do is you go to databases, and then you go to create new database. And now it's asking me to create that database. Let me quickly navigate to some location that I can use here. Let me just go into this one here and add a new folder. And this is going to be my live stream database. So here we go. Let's create this. And now, I want this. So this is now going to be my database. So now if we go in here, this is showing us all the databases that we have. You can see I have my JP database, but this is the database we just created. And now I can, for example, add a new category and say this is supposed to be for the live stream. So now let's name this live stream. And now I'm creating a new category. Where did I just create this? Actually, that's a good question. Again, let me create a new category and let's see. Is that live stream? Did I do something wrong here? So live stream database, no category. Let's add it here. Oh, okay. It added it to uncategorized. Okay. All right. Let's delete this this one. Okay. So delete category. Yes. So now we have this. We can also move it here, actually. So this is our folder. And we can save anything we want into here. So for example, if I want this whole setup to be in that category, I can just drag and drop it in here, create this whole thing as a folder in that database. And now I have this cube, and I can just make the database visible or invisible, and you can see that it's that this is now in here. And appearing or not appearing depending on if I have the database visible or not. On the drive, it created this, right? So this is my live stream database. This is what this is looking like. So I have a file in there, I have a category in there, and I have some other files in there that are defining the database. One thing that is important is that you do not change anything inside of that folder, because everything will be handled by the asset browser, right? That's an important rule here. And now let me just add this as an actual modifier capsule to the asset browser. So what you're going to do is, let me double click here to bring up the node editor. And in here, you would go assets, convert to asset. And now we can do a couple of cool things here. So first of all, versioning is supported. I'm going to go with version 0.1. I'm going to add that to my live stream database. And now, of course, I can add it to to this live stream folder. But in case of a nodal asset, that's actually the only case where I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend having that into in the nodes folder. So if we go here, we can see all the whole structure. We can even go in here and say, okay, I want this to be stored in geometry modifiers. So I hit OK here. Now it's geometry modifiers, and I hit OK. And now this asset has been created. If I now go to nodes modifiers, let me just save this and go to nodes modifiers. Here we go. We should find one that is called recursive subdivision. Or recursive subdivision. There we go. Here it is. This is our node. And now we can delete this one, right? And just bring it in again from the asset browser, and it's just going to work. So what if you want to add a custom thumbnail here? If you want to do that, let me just quickly go in here and let me maybe search for it. Recursive. To add a thumbnail here, you bring up the details, and then in here, you can just update the preview file from a file. And I'm going to do that. Let me go offline here, off screen again, and I'm going to navigate to a spot where I have this. So here we go. In this case, it's a TIFF with alpha applied, and I'm going to hit open, and now you can see that this is working, right? So now this is in here. Okay, and we can see our custom icon here in the asset browser. If I delete that and bring this back again, I think it doesn't work immediately because we would have to either restart Cinema 4D or maybe reload databases is enough. Let me just quickly see. No, you really have to restart Cinema 4D to make that change happen. But from then on, it will use this icon for the recursive subdivision capsule that you created. I'm not going to show that now because I don't want to quit and restart Cinema 4D now, but that's how it works. All right, and now you have that. And if you want an update to this asset, you can simply, again, right-click here, edit asset as group. Now you have it here. Let's say you want to add a parameter, something that may not make sense here now, but let's just add a float and say additional parameter. So now we have that here. And if we want to save an update to this, we go to Assets and then Save New Version. And now you can see this is counting up one, and it's also going to go to geometry modifiers. I'm going to hit OK. And now this one has been updated. It's now losing this, this connection to that file. I think we would have had to restart Cinema 4D before that. However, now we have this additional parameter in here. Although wait, let me just delete this and bring it back. Now we have the additional parameter in here. In the basic tab, we can even switch between versions. So let me bring both of these up. Version 2 has the additional parameter. Version 1 doesn't. This is how you would update. This is how you would update these. But now you can see now the version change made it work. So now version 1 has this one. So we actually don't need this version. So let me go to versions, and then we can go here, and I think we can delete that. Yep. So here we go. This is our asset. Okay, and now even here, although this is not in our standard, let's say in the category that I just defined, the live stream category here. When I go here to the recursive subdivision and where is it? Here we go. Here it is. And now I switch off the live streams database. You can see, again, it's going up, that it's not here anymore, right? If I want to bring it back, I have to add the database again or make it visible. And then under recursive subdivision, you can see the asset. That's how you work with the asset browser and how you create databases. And this folder that we just created, this one here, this can be shared. This can be on a server. It can be shared as well. You can even save the whole database as a zip archive and share it that way, and also mount it that way. So there are a couple of things you can do here to make your life a little easier. Creating a database and creating your own assets is definitely a way to make your life easy. So let's have a look at my little database here. So for example, I have some object setups. One of those is my beloved camera rig that I can use here, right? Where I can just dolly around and adjust the camera here. And yeah, it's a setup that I just put in there because I'm using it so often. And what's great about these is also that you can even add these to the layout. So let me add this here. And now I can just create that camera rig from here and save the layout and so on. So there's a lot of power to the asset browser. I just wanted to give you like a whole overview of what you can do there. Because it is important, especially when you're dealing with these node modifiers and stuff that is related to that. Okay, I think Well, that's actually everything I wanted to show. It took a little longer than I expected, but I hope that everything I showed was useful to you. You're muted, Noseman.
I'm muting. So we have run out of time.
We did.
Yeah. So everyone, don't forget on February the 10th, Dominic is going to be back to continue with the last one. And I promise you, Jonas is not going to be on our live shows again. No, Jonas is always more than welcome to come on our shows and all that. And it was interesting because that whole database thing and adding them and the icons and all that, that was something I hadn't touched upon. So that was some very, very good information. Anyway, yes, we have come to the end of today's stream. And as always promised, we have overrun. Thank you very much, Jonas, for sharing your wisdom with us. And there are a couple of outstanding questions here. Let's say before the bottom of the hour, we have a few minutes just to address them. The question is the cylinder object, not the scene I showed. It was editable. The only reason I made it editable was because I wanted to go and select one single edge using my mouse, so you can see, because procedurally selecting one edge, it's easier to do it on manually selecting an edge on an editable object is easier to do. But the whole node system and the modifiers and the whole system works on any object generated or something like that. So that's the reason I did that. Let's see if there's anything else tagged. Oh, yeah, of course. Could Jonas just move that node to a new object? Exactly, yeah. Instead of a cube, he can add well, Jonas.
Yeah, let me just.
Let me add you. Yeah.
Quickly show that. Yep. Am I on? Yeah, I am.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So first of all, as I said, completely procedural. So we can add stuff here, right?
The question was, can you add it to another object?
Let's also, yeah, just use I want to make sure that everything is quads here.
It doesn't matter.
Let me do that. That works as well. Let me go with a torus, maybe. There we go. Let's delete the. Oh yeah, cool. I deleted the torus. That is exactly not what I wanted, but here we go. It works with that as well. So yeah, it is procedural. So it works with every sort of object. So you could even throw it onto a character. Let's just come up with the bust, generic head bust. Here we go. Is that? Yeah, I think that is cool. Maybe we can even, yeah, let's go with this one. So you can see that works as well. And because I saw the question from Andy in the chat, hey Andy, good to have you here. You can go all the way up to 100. You can go all the way down to 0 with both parameters here. But remember, for the chance, for one of those parameters, I set the value minimum to 0.0001, just to avoid problems with 0.
Yep. The last question, and then we're going to shut the show. Will a built-in programming language similar to Vex and Houdini be added to nodes in the future? That is a question you can submit. It's a question you can submit if you go to the help and report bug idea or contact tech support. These are not questions that we can answer, even if we knew, we couldn't tell you. So we cannot neither confirm or deny. But in any case, yeah, these kind of questions about future stuff and all that, they need to go directly to Maxon, because either we don't know or we know, but we're not going to tell you, for obvious reasons. Anyhow, I want to thank everyone for hanging out with us today. And don't forget to check out the events page and check out what events are happening and what shows are happening. I think we have Friday this Friday, VFX and Chill. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yes. Let's see what's
I
happening.
think I've seen it on the events page. Yeah.
Events page. Yes. January the 31st. So, oh, I'm showing the wrong screen here. There you go. January the 31st. And
Friday, yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
And,
make sure.
Yep, go ahead.
Make sure you check out February the 10th when Dominic is going to be back and show some more stuff to us. And also make sure to download the files, the scene files that we are sharing. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is a very rich download. It has 28 files in it, which is a lot.
Yeah, and very soon we're going to publish a number of tutorials and notes. Stay tuned. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye,
Perfect.
Jonas.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching.